Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Please join us today in the study of Srimad Bhagavatam. Today we will be studying Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 7, the scheduled incarnations of Lord Shri Krishna. And before that, please join us for Jai Radha Madhava prayers. Hare Krishna. Jai Radha Madhava Bihari, Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari, Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari, Yashodanandana Brajjana Ranjana, Yashodanandana Brajjana Ranjana, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari, Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari, Yashodanandana Brajana Ranjana, Yashodanandana Brajana Ranjana, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rāma, Rāma Rāma Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rāma, Rāma Rāma Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rāma, Rāma Rāma Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rāma, Rāma Rāma Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rāma, Rāma Rāma Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rāma, Rāma Rāma Hare Hare, Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, dear viewers. Welcome everyone back to Srimad Bhagavatam classes. Subhash Vishwas ji, Hare Krishna, Nidhi Gupta ji, Hari Bol, Niru Dhal, Hare Krishna. We have missed you all and we are back again. And Prabhuji is speaking today on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto
2, Chapter 7. Yes.
This is a beautiful class on incarnations of Bhagwan.
Yes.
We all want to please Krishna, we all want to serve Krishna, and we want to take shelter of devotees and Srimad Bhagavatam and the holy names. So, Prabhuji has some really wonderful lessons at the chapter level for all of us. Shivangini Gupta ji, Hare Krishna, Madhira Rai, Hare Krishna, Hari Bol, Vishal Adhikari ji, Nepal se, Hare Krishna, Krishna Murthy ji, Hare Krishna, Chandrika Yadav, Ramesh Gupta ji, Hari Bol, and सारे व्यूअर्स जिनका हम नाम नहीं ले पाए, आप सभी का खास अभिनंदन. प्रभु जी, please carry on with your class.
Hare Krishna. So today we will be discussing Time and Tide Waits for No One, because the title of the chapter is Scheduled Incarnations of Lord Shri Krishna. So they are all scheduled, right? They are occurring at a specific time and under specific circumstances at specific places. Hare Krishna. Please join us for Mangalacharan prayers. Together we will sing them. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udiriyet Shavatam Swakatha Krishna Punya Shavana Kirtanaha Hridayantasto Bhadrani Vidhunoti Suhasatam Dashta Praeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatir Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. Hare Krishna. Please join us in the recitation of text 5 of Srimad Bhagavatam, 2nd Canto, Chapter 7, Scheduled Incarnation of Lord Shri Krishna. Taptam tapo vividaloka shishakshayami Adasana swatapasah sa chatursano bhut prakalpa samplava vinashtam ihatma tattvam samyak jagad munayo yad achakshatatman. This can also be sung in another meter. Taptam tato tapo vividhaloka shikshayami adosana tapasa sa chatursano abhut prakalpa samplava vinashtam nihatma tattvam samyak jagad munayo yad achakshatatman. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. To create different planetary systems, I had to undergo austerities and penance, and the Lord, thus being pleased with me, incarnated in 4 sanas, Sanak, Sanat Kumar, Sanandana and Sanatana. In the previous creation, the spiritual truth was devastated, but the 4 sanas explained it so nicely that the truth at once became clearly perceived by the sages. Hare Krishna. Please join us for Guru Pranati. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gaurvani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshitarine Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Mukham Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yat Kripa Tadaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinataranam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. So here, in this chapter, let's bring the context. Where are we and who is talking in this particular case? It is Lord Brahma who is revealing the various scheduled incarnations of Lord Shri Krishna to Devashi Narad on his inquiry that are you the Supreme Being who is creating everything? So this is the picture where he is inquiring and Lord Brahma is revealing that it is Lord Shri Krishna as revealed in the Lord Krishna from whom his expansions of his expansions is Purusha avatars, as how this material creation is taking place. We discussed that in the previous chapter, and earlier we discussed the appearance of incarnation of Lord Varahadev, who killed Hiranyaksh, brother of Hiranyakashipu, who was none other than Vijay, who had fallen from the spiritual world because of the curses of the Chaturkumaras. And today in this verse, we talked about Chaturkumaras. And now sometimes people, they ask this question, that how come Chaturkumaras have been listed as incarnations of Lord Shri Krishna? So they are Shaktaveshabtas, empowered incarnations. So Lord Krishna, he also on specific circumstances allows one of the Jiva Tattvas, one of the living entity to be empowered so that Lord's message can flow through such a living entity. Just like Vyasdev, he is also a Shaktaveshabta, empowered incarnation of Lord Shri Krishna. And Vyasdev, he wrote all the Vedas, all the Puranas, as well as Srimad Bhagavatam. So this is how we get the intelligence. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. I need to speak. Nobody could hear me. So
oh, okay. That's fine. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, dear viewers. I got some feedback. Earlier, nobody could hear my voice. Actually, we did a little change in our microphone system here. So, I am again welcoming everyone. आप सभी का अभिनंदन है, स्वागत है, और खासकर लक्ष्मी शर्मा जी, कांता थापा जी, हरिबोल नीरूधाल जी, हरे कृष्णा, निधि गुप्ता जी, शिवांगिनी महाजन जी, हरिबोल, हरे कृष्णा। आज जीव तत्व प्रभु जी जो क्लास दे रहे हैं, जैसा कि उन्होंने बताया, भगवान के इनकारनेशंस की नॉलेज हमें सबको समझनी बहुत ज़रूरी है, क्योंकि हम सब बहुत ही लव और डिवोशन से भगवान को प्लीज करना चाहते हैं, सर्व करना चाहते हैं. सो वी शुड अंडरस्टैंड मोर अबाउट दिस लॉर्ड who is so loving to us. So प्रभु जी आज जो हमारे lessons लेके आए हैं, please pay close attention to it, because प्रभु जी चैप्टर लेवल पे हमारे लिए lessons लाए हैं. इस चैप्टर में बहुत सारी वर्सेस हैं, तो अगर आपके पास वक्त नहीं है पूरी डिटेल्स पढ़ने का, आप जस्ट ये क्लास से लेसन से बेनिफिट उठा सकते हैं. सो प्रभु जी, आफ्टर दिस क्लास आर वी प्लानिंग टू डू क्वेश्चन एंड आंसर सेशन?
Yes.
Okay, so please be there with us, and at the end of the class आप questions type कर सकते हैं comments पे, and I will read them to प्रभु जी. हरे कृष्णा.
Hare Krishna. And Lord Brahma, he reveals. So these are some of the incarnations, because Lord He is Ananta, He is unlimited incarnations, expansions. These are some of His prime ones that we see have been mentioned. And also here we see that Lord Brahma, he received the knowledge, the Vedas from Lord Shri Krishna. So that is the beginning of Parampara, and then he imparted that knowledge to Devashi Narad, who in turn imparted it to Vyasadev, and Vyasadev imparted it to Shukdev Goswami, and we are, in this disciplic succession, getting it in Parampara, and later on, means again, where this recitation is also happening is at Naimisharanya, where Sutta Goswami is revealing to the sages, and who's their spokesperson? Shaunak Rishi. And he is reciting Srimad Bhagavatam that he heard earlier when Shukdev Goswami spoke it to Parikshit Maharaj, where Parikshit Maharaj was cursed to die in 7 days, and all these 7 days he immersed himself in hearing Shravanam, hearing about the glories of Lord Shri Krishna and his devotees, his various incarnations and so forth. And so when Lord Brahma is revealing that he is talking about scheduled incarnations, so he is also referring to various Manus, like Lord appeared as Manus. He even appeared as Suyagya, who became the Indra to rule and maintain order in the 3 worlds, right? The heavenly, the earthly, and the lower planetary systems. So we have to understand everything with the right context. And in this chapter, even the incarnations have been provided, we have to also understand that they are not chronologically occurring. That's also something very important people should understand. Because sometimes people, they get bewildered. They're thinking that, oh, Lord first appears Matsya Avatar. No, Matsya Avatar appeared when King Satyavata was inside. And this King Satyavata later on became Vaivasvata Manu, son of Vivaswan. He's the sun god, right? Sun gods, Vivaswan, he had a son. So his son, Vaivasvata, he became Manu. So again, that's how we have to understand. In the previous birth, he was King Satyavrata. And Vaivasvata Manu came in reign after Swayambhuva Manu. Now Swayambhuva Manu wrote Manu Samhita. So we have to also understand that there were different Manus. And Kapil Dev was son of Kardama Muni and Devahuti. And Devahuti was daughter of Swayambhuva Manu when Swayambhuva Manu was in reign. So Kapil Dev appeared much earlier, right? So from that perspective. And these are all incarnations. Kapil Dev is also incarnations. Yet at the same time, we see that even though he is an incarnation of Lord Shri Krishna, his name is also in one of the 12 Mahajanas. That is very bewildering, right? So again, that's why we go back to Acharya's commentaries to understand the depth. And of course, these classes, we can only give you a synopsis of, just like Srimad Bhagavatam, it is a commentary on the Vedanta Sutra by, Srila Vyasadev. So similarly, we can give you insight, and if you ask for the questions, we can go deeper based on the relevance as what you need to know. If we were to cover everything, then this life will be too short. Forget about the class duration, the life will be too short to discuss the subject matters. And so here, we have to also understand that Kurma Avatar, sometimes people think that after Matsya Avatar appeared Kurma Avatar. No. Varaha Avatar appeared who killed Hiranyaksh. Narasimhadev appeared who killed Hiranyakashipu. Now, after that, Narasimhadev established Prahlad Maharaj as the emperor, after maintaining the three worlds. And Prahlad Maharaj, after him, came his son, and then son of his son is who? Bali Maharaj. And it was during the reign of Bali Maharaj that Lord, he had won over the heavenly planets as well as the earthly and the lower planets. So he was ruling the universe, and at that time, Indra approached Lord Vishnu saying that how can I regain back? And there Lord Vishnu said, have a tie with Bali Maharaj and all the demons so that you engage them in Samudra Manthan, churning of the milk ocean. And at that time Lord became Kurma, the tortoise, so as to support the Mandra hills from sinking into the depths, into the bed of the ocean. So Kurma Avatar appeared much later on. And it was after this that we have to understand much later, right, as then Mohini Murti appeared, right, from after the churning of the ocean, the nectar came up, and then Dhanvantari, again another incarnation of Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa, who started this medicine, right. So everyone refers to Dhanvantari, who provided various herbs so that we can have healthy body and we can be free of all kind of diseases. And then came Mohini Avatar, who bewildered all the asuras, and Bali Maharaj was among that group, right. So at that time all the demigods, they received Amrit, and then when Rahu, the uncle of Bali Maharaj, when he tried to join the demigods, at that time he was killed by Lord Vishnu, yet at the same time Rahu became a virtual planet, as it is given in the Shastras, because he had tasted the Amrit, and the drops of Amrit along with his blood fell on earth, and that's how the onion and garlic came up. And so onion and garlic, because they grew because of the blood of Rahu, they have the mode of ignorance prevalent in it. But since there was an amsha, there was some portion of it was also Amrit, they have medicinal qualities. So devotees, we understand that yes, they can prolong life, but the mode of ignorance is more fearful. So we don't eat onion or garlic, we avoid them completely. Now here, as I'm just giving you, like everything that's given in Srimad Bhagavatam is not chronologically arranged, rather they are arranged based on the subject matters. So you have to understand the context. And then later on, Lord appeared as Bali Maharaj by the blessing of his Guru Shukracharya, as well as the blessing of his grandfather Prahlad Maharaj. He again wins over the heavenly planets. Now think of it this way, he was mortal while the demigods had become immortal after getting Amrit. Even then they lost to Bali Maharaj. Those are his glories. And then Lord appeared as Vaman Dev and Trivikrama form, where he took the gigantic form, and 3 steps he took back everything. And the 3rd step was Bali Maharaj. It was to glorify Bali Maharaj. Lord gave that opportunity. So Bali Maharaj, even though he was sent to Sutala, Sutala is where Vaman Dev himself was residing, so it became part of the spiritual world, because wherever Lord is residing, that is where the spiritual world is. So if Lord is completely occupying our heart, then we are not in this material world, we are in the spiritual world, because we are in direct contact with the Lord. And that's why we say that we should chant the holy name. Hare Kṛṣṇa, Kṛṣṇa Kṛṣṇa, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So when we are chanting, we are in direct contact with Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa, we are in direct contact with Radharani, our mother, and they are dancing on our tongue, and this transcendental sound vibration enters through our ears into our heart, and Lord is seated on this beautiful throne at the lotus of our heart. So we have to meditate on His name, form, activities, pastimes, the glories that are so transcendental to this material world, and they are all purifying. So what is important is, right, we talked about that what is the purpose of these incarnations, instead of going into the details like how Lord initiated various kind of yoga systems at various times. Yes, that is also very important, because when he appeared as Kapil Dev, as the son of Kardama Muni and Devahuti, at that time he imparted the Sankhya Yoga knowledge, analytical way of understanding this material world and the spiritual realm, so that we can go back home, back to Godhead. So in every incarnation, Lord is destroying, the demoniac mindset, and he is delivering the devotees and to re-establish the principles. So again, these are the purposes. भगवान क्यों आते हैं बार बार different incarnations में? दुष्टों का नाश करने के लिए, भक्तों को वापस ले जाने के लिए, भक्तों का उद्धार करने के लिए, और धर्म की संस्थापना करने के लिए। परित्राणाय साधूनां विनाशाय च दुष्कृतां धर्म संस्थापनार्थाय संभवामि युगे युगे. So Lord, he again and again comes in this material world. Now sometimes people say, if he is coming to re-establish the principles of religion, तो अभी क्यों नहीं आते हैं? Kali Kale Naam Rupe Krishna Avatare. So in this Kali age, Lord has manifested in his holy name. So his form is here. He is appearing in his holy name. And that's why we have to take shelter. And how do you take shelter? Just by raising our hands and chanting, Hare Kṛṣṇa, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And there are amazing instructions coming from Srimad Bhagavatam that we hear. So Shravanam is very important. We have to attentively hear and understand, based on the instructions, based on the explanations that we get from the acharyas in parampara, in disciplic succession. So that way, we will be able to understand many of the important aspects. Now I will touch on some of the aspects is, like in this age, it is in Chaitanya Charitamrita where this is clearly mentioned, Kali Kale Naam Rupe Krishna Avatare Naam Haita Haya Sarva Jagat Nistara. So Lord is incarnating in his holy name, and simply by chanting the holy name, one can associate with the Lord directly, because he is dancing on our tongue, and anyone who does this is certainly delivered. And in Brihad Naradiya Puran, it is very nicely given, Hare Naam, Hare Naam, Hare Naam eva kevalam, kalo nashteva 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 gatiranyatha. Chanting of the holy name, chanting of the holy name, chanting of the holy name. Hare Naam को 3 बार बोला गया है for stress. So again, it's repeated for stress. Kevalam, it is the only means to be delivered in this Kali age, and it destroys the influence. Nashtev, 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 gatiranyatha. And there is no other way. So again, we have to understand that in this Kali age, Lord has incarnated in his holy name. So we hear, Lord has also incarnated as Srimad Bhagavatam, his literary incarnations. So we should Nityam Bhagavat Sevaya, regularly read Srimad Bhagavatam, study it, so that we understand his glories, name, form, activities, glories. And it actually enhances our chanting, and chanting enhances our attraction to reading and hearing, Shravanam about the glories of Lord Shri Krishna. So these are very essential. They work together, and they, cause this cyclic reaction, right? And it causes, this chain reaction causes us to accelerate at God's speed, so that we can quickly go back home, back to Godhead. Which means that we may be in this body, but we can exist in spiritual realm. So again, we don't have to wait even to give up this body. We can have a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings. Why have material experience? Rather, we want to have a spiritual experience. Yet at the same time, people ask that what other incarnations are there? Yes, Lord also appears as his Achavigraha incarnation. And he is also appearing in this Kali age. Means again, not in every Chaturyugas. What are the Chaturyugas? Satyuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapar Yuga, and Kali Yuga. So not in every incarnation in Kali Yuga, Lord appears as, as his own devotee. We are lucky that, he appeared 500 years back as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And this description, though not appearing, because not all Lord's incarnations are listed by Lord Brahma in this chapter. Rather, they are also later on described by Shukdev Goswami. So, in the 11th canto, 5th chapter, 32nd verse reveals the incarnation of, the appearance of Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And that is very nicely given. Kṛṣṇa varnam tusha krishnam sango pangasta pashadam yagya sankirtana praya yajanti sumedhasaha. So, in this age of Kali, right? Sumedhasaha. So again, intelligent persons, they perform what? They perform Sankirtana Yagya. Yagya Sankirtana Prayar. So perform congregation chanting to worship the incarnation of Godhead, who constantly sings the name of Kṛṣṇa. Although his complexion is non-blackish, because he is Gaurvarna in the complexion of Radharani. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi. Her complexion is like molten gold. So he is appearing in that golden, that's why he is referred to as golden avatar, a golden incarnation of Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa, who is appearing as his own devotee. So Lord Kṛṣṇa himself, he wants to understand the mood of Radharani. So he appears in her mood with her complexion as his own devotees. So Kṛṣṇa Varnam Tusha Krishnam. So he is a Kṛṣṇa, which is, he is not black, rather he is golden. And who is he appearing with? When the king goes somewhere, he doesn't go alone, right? He goes with his associates and so. Sango Pangastra Parshadam. So his sangas, he is appearing with his associates, with his, angas. So again, he is also appearing with his servants, right? Upanga. Upanga means with his servants. And Astra, the weapons. And Parshadam, his confidential companions. And who are his confidential companions? Gadadhar Pandit, Srinivas Acharya, Advaita Acharya, Nityananda Prabhu, and so many others. Because when he goes to Jagannath Puri, he changes his complete, association per se there. So again, we hear so many glories. And what is it spreading? He is spreading Sankirtan Yagya. So Sankirtana Yagya Praya. So intelligent person, people who are Sumedhasaha, who have good intelligence, they take to the chanting of the holy name, congregational chanting of the holy name. So that's the importance, that why we should take to the chanting is because it is for our own purification. Now sometimes people say, okay, but we are talking about this chanting. Now what are the proofs coming from Bhagavad Gita and other scriptures, even Vedas, or Puranas, that this chanting is truly, delivering. So it is very interesting that when Lord Kṛṣṇa in the 10th canto, Opulences of the Absolute, he is listing, his opulences, and he is identifying that he refers to, of all the yagyas, which one is the topmost yagya. Now, we talk about yagyas of different ages. In Satyuga, it was by meditation, that was the yagya. Krite tadadhayate Vishnum. So in Satyuga, Krite Yuga, Satyuga, by meditating on Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa, one could attain perfection. So that was the yagya for that age. But that yagya would take tens of thousands of years. Like Prachetas in 10,000 years, they were able to have darshan, they were able to have, they were able to see Lord, Vishnu, who's none other than Kṛṣṇa. He is an expansion of Kṛṣṇa. So they got the blessing, so one can be delivered. Then, Tretayam yajato make. So because austerity was gone, the purity, cleanliness was still there. So in Treta Yuga, people would, perform 6 kinds of cleanliness, and they would perform fire sacrifices. Tretayam yajato make, and they would put oblations in the fire. So that way they would be delivered by getting, the mercy of the Lord. Dwapare paricharya. Dwapar Yuga, one can attain perfection by deity worship, by visiting the temples, by going on pilgrimages. So that was the yagya, and Lord Kṛṣṇa himself appeared in Dwapar Yuga. So by serving his lotus feet, one could attain perfection. And Kalautad Hari Kirtanat. In Kali age, by performing Sankirtan Yagya, one can attain perfection. So these are some very, very important aspects that we should be paying attention to. And So that is being clearly identified. Then in this 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna is revealing, so these are four different kind of yajnas, but which is the topmost yajna, somebody can ask. So in Bhagavad Gita, this truth is hidden. In the 25th verse, Lord is saying, Yajnanam jap yajyasmin. So of all the yajnas, I am the chanting japa of the holy name. So chanting of the holy names, and that is the topmost yajna. And in Kṛṣṇa, at that time, or Treta Yuga, we can also see that during that juncture, at that time, Rishi Valmiki, who was previously a hunter, right? We talked about that, who chanted Lord's name. Now, he was chanting Lord Ram's name, right? By the instruction, under the instruction and guidance of Devashi Narad. But could he pronounce Ram? No, he could not. So he was not even able to pronounce Ram. He was pronouncing Mara, 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 Mara. Because when Devashi Narad asked him to chant Ram, then he tried and he couldn't do that. Then Devashi Narad asked him to chant Mara. So he said, yes, I can chant this, Mara, 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 Mara. So even an accidental chanting, he was not chanting Ram, he was chanting Mara, but with the combination, consecutively it became Ram, Ram, Ram. If you ignore the first Ma and it occurs in sequence, it becomes Ram, 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 Ram. But what was he thinking? That I am dying, I am dying, I am dying, right? Mara, 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 Mara. And that is what was able to even give him the amazing transcendental knowledge, and he wrote Valmiki Ramayana under the instruction of his spiritual master Devashi Narad. And so here we hear that even incorrectly, means somehow, even by mistake, if somebody pronounces the name correctly, if the Lord's name is called out, then one can get the mercy of Lord Shri Krishna. So those are amazing glories of the holy name. And Srila Prabhupada used to share this beautiful story where, in amongst the Muslims, they call a suar, a pig, as a haram. So that is the word. And once he was attacked by a wild boar, a wild pig, and he was attacked, so he immediately said haram, and then he died. But because he had said haram, it refers in Sanskrit to Hey Ram, oh my dear Lord Ramchandra. And even, by mistake, he called that out, he was able to go back home. So those are amazing, incidents that have been revealed by the Acharyas, that even by mistake, if somebody calls out Lord's name, at the last moment of their life, at the moment of death, they can be able to go back home. Yet at the same time, we should not just say, oh, I will remember it at the last moment, but that may not happen. Again, the Acharyas, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Srila Jiva Goswami give us very clear instructions that we have to do this practice throughout our life, so that whenever there is danger, we can remember Lord's name. And that is the, that is the aspect, that we have firm faith that Lord will provide us the protection, that we will be under His shelter, and we will be able to serve Him with that mood. That is an essential aspect of Sharanagati, surrendering to Lord Shri Krishna. So we also understand that among the four kind of yajnas, the topmost yajna is Yajnanam Japo Asmin. Yajnanam Japa Yajya Asmin. So Jap is a yajna, and minimum 16 rounds we should chant following the four regulatory principles: no meat eating, no intoxication, no illicit sex, and no gambling. Why these four? Because this is where Kali resides, right? Kali refers to Kalaha. Kalaha means quarrels, and this age, right, is an age of Kali, of Kalaha, quarrel and hypocrisy. And who are the parents of this Kalaha? Kalaha has two parents, and they are anger and envy. So Krodh and Isha, these are the parents of anger. Wherever they are present, or even one is present at that time, it creates the environment for a quarrel to occur. So this is where Kali enters, right? This is where Kali takes, appears very easily. Its influence grows wherever these two things are there. But to be able to control this and all other kind of vices, Kam, Krodha, Lobha, Moh, Mad, Matsara, all these 6 vices, lust, anger, greed, pride, delusion and envy, all these vices can be removed simply by taking to the chanting of the holy name. Hare Kṛṣṇa, Kṛṣṇa Kṛṣṇa, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Again telling us that, we hear about all these incarnations and sometimes people ignore. They are meditating on these incarnations and saying that now I would wait to be born in Krita Yuga, Satya Yuga or Dwapar Yuga, in Treta Yuga. No, in this age we can quickly get delivered, as we hear from the example of Valmiki Rishi, as we hear from so many examples given by the Acharyas, by taking to the chanting of the holy name, by reading Srimad Bhagavatam daily, right? Nitya Seva, and by engaging in deity worship. So these are the 3 incarnations, and of course we talked about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as is revealed in the scriptures, as how he appears in his golden avatar, as a golden avatar of Lord Shri Krishna. So as we hear this aspect, again, there are cases where people are bewildered that why are there people who are not taking to the chanting of the holy name? And Lord Krishna, he reveals in Bhagavad Gita the secret. But before I dive into that secret, I want to talk about a story, a very nice story that helps us understand that time and tide waits for no man, and it basically causes us to become deluded by the influence of Maya. We forget our true nature. Jivera Surupaya Krishna Nityadas. Right? And what does Srila Vyasadeva write? He is writing in Srimad Bhagavatam, Dharma sadishtita pumsan vishvakshena kathasu nautpadyate yadi ratim shameva hi kevalam. Dharma sunashtita pumsat. Whatever occupational duty a man performs, right? Vishvakshena kathasu nautpadyate yadi ratim shameva hi kevalam. Whatever duties that we are performing in this material world, if they do not cause attractions, na utpadyate yadi ratim. Ratim is attachment, attraction towards Lord Shri Krishna. Then it is shrama eva hi kevalam. It is just useless labor. So this story magnifies that aspect. So there was this man, a cyclist. He was coming down the hill, and he lost his control and he hits another man who was walking. Now the man he hits walking was a big wrestler. So the wrestler gets angry at him. He draws a circle and says to the man, you stay in this circle and you better not come out. If you will come out, then I will beat you up. I'll break every bone in your body. So this man, he is standing in this circle, shaken, literally shaken at this moment. And now what the wrestler is doing, he's picking up his bicycle and he's breaking part by part. He's breaking its wheels, he's breaking its handle. And when he looks back at this man, the man is smiling. And then he's getting more angry, the wrestler is getting more angry. And so he's breaking, the various iron rods that builds and the seat. And he looks back at this man, and the man is laughing strongly. And the wrestler, seeing this man who is laughing, is standing in the circle, he becomes more angry and starts breaking every single part. Even the parts that were broken partially, he's breaking all of them. And he looks back, he's completely broken his bicycle, and he asks this man, why are you laughing? So you know what the man said, the cyclist said? He said, while you were not looking, I stepped out of this circle 3 times. So that is the mentality of living entity when deluded. Our life is passing by, but we are trying to, show ourselves that we can satisfy our senses in such manner. We can acquire these positions. But at the moment of death, all these are gone. They are not going to be carried. What is going to be carried forward are the reactions and our devotion. If we did not do any devotion, then there is no shelter we have. We are in an anath state. And so we have to now suffer the reactions of our good deeds as well as bad deeds. And knowingly or unknowingly, bad deeds occur. While for good deeds, you have to make a substantial effort. Agya sukriti, yes, occurs by the mercy of a devotee. Otherwise, mostly it is, knowingly and unknowingly, we are performing sins. Every time we are breathing, we are killing millions of germs. So now, even that is a reaction that we have to face. So we have to be very, very careful. That's why we have to take shelter of Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa. So when we take shelter of Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa, what does he say? Mahatmanastu mampata devim prakritim ashrayah. We switch our shelter from Maya to Yoga Maya, right? Who's an expansion of Radharani. So we come under the shelter of Mother, who is very loving. And so all our activities are dovetailing, pleasing Krishna, because that's what the mother wants. She wants to please the father. So she engages us in pleasing Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa. So when we please Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa, then automatically all these reactions are going away. All our activities are dovetailed in pleasing Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa, and there is no reaction. Rather, there is progression, so there is great benefit. Even for little service, there is great benefit. And so, there is so much benefit when taking to devotional service. Why not take it? And why stay in suffering state? Yet at the same time we see sometimes people being deluded. Remember one of the 6 vices? Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moh, Mad. Mad is delusion. One's influenced by illusion. And in conditioned life, we have 4 defects, right? In conditioned life, what are these? We have imperfect senses, we have a propensity to cheat, and propensity to be deluded, again, Mad. And we have, imperfect senses, humanism, propensity to cheat, and then propensity to be deluded. So this propensity to delude, it has been spoken in so many ways at different places. Yet at the same time, sometimes people, they become proud, and maya, pratyana, and their intelligence is taken away by the material energy. So all that intelligence is taken away, and they deluded, fall down in this material world. Now sometimes people say, how can you prove that this is the cause of the fall down? Well, in Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna reveals this. So let's look at what is he saying about such personalities who get deluded in pride, and they don't take to the teachings of the acharyas, they don't take to the teachings by the sadhus and the shastras, the bona fide scriptures. Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna is revealing this secret to Arjuna. Agyascha shraddhanascha samshayatma vinashyati nayam loko asti na paro na sukham samshayatmanaham. What does it mean? So, what is the meaning? Agyas cha ashadradhanasya cha, right? A fool who has no knowledge. Agyas, that person, who has no knowledge. And also what kind of person? Ashadradhanasya cha. Without faith in revealed scriptures. One who does not have faith in revealed scriptures. Also, cha is also or and. Samshaya, of doubts. So he has so many doubts. Now, Samshayatma is the one who doubts these revealed scriptures. Vinashyati, he falls down. Such a person who is a fool, who does not understand the glories of name-form activities pastimes by taking shelter of the 3 evidences, sadhu, guru and shastra. So these are our reference points. Such a person who has no faith, ashadadhanasya, that person also, as well as samshayatma, the one who is a doubting soul. They fall down. Now why do they fall down? Because this is their tendencies. One is a fool. So again, ignorance is bliss in this material world, but it is not an excuse when it comes to our spiritual growth, when it comes to the soul, because it is only in human form, that in the human birth, that we have this opportunity to inquire about the Absolute. We can inquire about the purpose of this life. Why is there so much pain? Why is there so much quarrel in this world? Why is there so much suffering in this world? All these inquiries, when we make, finally we reach to the point to say, if all this is there, then what is my shelter? Whose shelter should I take to be able to overcome all this? And what is the purpose of life? What is the reason that we are born? Why have I received this human form of body? So that we can go back home, back to God. It is a perfect boat that when engaged in the right way, focusing in the right direction, not like the cyclist trying to step out, rather simply, asking for forgiveness and taking to the shelter and specifying the wrestler would have been an easier way to keep the bicycle so that he can reach his destination. Rather, he is enjoying, stepping out of the circle. We talked about this story a little earlier, where his cycle is being broken into pieces by the wrestler, and the cyclist is smiling, thinking that when he was not looking, I stepped out of the circle. That is his foolishness. Maya pratyana, intelligence is stolen away. He is not realizing that his mode of, the media, the human body that we have received, is getting destroyed in due course of time when we are running after materialistic things to satisfy our senses. And that's why the senses, they will never be satisfied, because when you put ghee, clarified butter in fire, it becomes stronger. Just like that, the more you try to satisfy the senses, the more strong they become. It is not possible to satisfy the senses fully, and more unhappy a person becomes. Now, how come that is true? Because here Lord Kṛṣṇa in the 40th verse of 4th chapter, where he is talking about these three kind of personalities who fall down. Agyascha, Ashadadhanascha, Samshayatma Vinashyati. So what are these three kind of persons we talked about are falling down? Agyash, ones who are foolish by nature, who are ignorant and they don't take to spiritual knowledge. Ashadadhanascha, people who don't have faith, who constantly doubt, right? And Asamshayatma is the doubting personalities. So they fall down. Why? Nayam loko asti naparo. They don't see, in this world or in this life or in the next life. Loko in this particular case is not just referring to the place but also to the birth. That at this place, at this particular instance, when we have received this human body, they don't get it, and also in the next. But what is it that they don't get it? Na sukham samshayatmanaha. So, he does not get any happiness in this life or in the next for a doubting person. Samshaya. So, samshaya means doubtful person. Atmanaha is of the person. So, because of the doubts, one who does not take shelter of Sadhu Guru and Shastra and take to the devotion service of Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa and engage in serving the devotees, taking the shelter of a bona fide spiritual master, falls down. One falls down because na utpadyate yati ratim shamevahi kevalam. If one does not increase his attachment, rati, right, attachment towards the lotus feet of Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa and pleasing Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa, all his activities are shamayava, they are just useless labor. So we have to understand that such a important aspect has been given. So how do we remove this kalaha, right? Kali age, the effect of Kali age. Whose parents are who? Who are the parents of Kali? Kalaha. Kalaha is quarrel. The parents are Krodha, anger, and envy, right? Matsara. So, Krodha and Matsara, anger and envy, these are the parents of Kalaha, of a quarrel. So, whenever they are present, quarrel can quickly arise. And how to get rid of this quarrel? Now, this is also revealed by Shukdev Goswami later. And there is a beautiful story after that I will cover. Actually, let me cover the story first, because the story is with respect to this particular important aspect, how to remove the effect of Kali age. So, once there were three sages. They were discussing among themselves which age is the best age to be born in, right? So, one age was saying Satyuga. In Satyuga people could meditate and they can go back home, they can be liberated. The other sage was saying, no, Satyuga is not so much, because you have to meditate for tens of thousands of years, which is very difficult. In a few thousand of years, you can perform the fire sacrifice. So, Treta Yuga, you can attain perfection. But in just few thousands of years, you can perform fire sacrifices. And then the third one was saying, no, actually, Dwapar Yuga is easier, because you can go on pilgrimage, you can take to the temple worship of Lord deities, and you can attain perfection in few hundred years. So now, as they were discussing which one is that, they could not come to a conclusion. So they said, you know what? Vedas were written by Vyasadeva. Let's go and ask him. So at that time, Vyasadeva, he was taking a bath when the three sages approached him. And at that time, they said, we have this inquiry. Can you please clarify which age is the best age? And at that time, as soon as Vyasadeva, heard this, he jumped out. Now he's not wearing any clothes. So first of all, they closed their eyes because they saw Vyasadeva is jumping out of the water without any clothes. And then he is singing, Kalera dosha nidhe rajan asti he ko mahan guna kirtana deva Kṛṣṇasya mukta sangha param vrajet. Now as he sings this, what had happened is, as soon as he says the word Kale, they immediately close their ears. They did not even consider Kali age in their discussion to be an age which could be the best age. And as soon as they heard the word Kali, they don't want to hear anything negative, so they close their ears. And then when he is done, he jumps back into the waters. They looked at each other. They said, did you hear what he said? The other sages said, oh, I could not. As soon as he said Kali, I don't want to hear. I closed my ears. And they said, yeah, I also did the same thing. We couldn't hear. So they asked Vyasadeva to please explain which is the best age to take birth in. Then Vyasadeva again jumps out of the water. And what happens? They close their eyes. And as soon as he says, Kalere dosha nidhe rajan asti eko mahan guna kirtana deva Kṛṣṇasya mukta sangha param vrajet. They immediately, as soon as they heard Kale, they immediately closed their ears again. And when they saw Vyasadeva jump back in the waters, they opened up their ears, they looked at each other and said, did you hear what he said? Now everybody said, as soon as he said the word Kali, I covered my ears. So at that time, third time they ask, and the same thing happens. And now they are really perplexed because they are not able to hear. As soon as he starts with Kalera dosh, they immediately close their ears and they are not able to hear. So at that time, Vyasadeva, in very simple words, he explains to them that it is the age of Kali which is the best. Which is the best age? None of these three. So which one is left? So that's how he has to explain to them. None of these three, which one is left? There are the 4 ages. They understand the Kali age is the only age that's left. So they inquire, how is it? So he's saying, Kalera dosha nidhe rajan. This is Shukdev Goswami. He's revealing to Parikshit Maharaj in the 12th canto that this Kali age is dosha nidhe rajan. So my dear Raja Maharaj Parikshit, this Kali age, Kali dosha nidhe, it's an ocean of faults. Forget about few faults, it's an ocean of faults. We talk about material world as ocean of innocence, and within this material world, on this planet Earth, when Kali comes, the Kali age is there, which is the current age, it is an ocean of faults. Astiha eka mahan guna. So it has one great quality. And what is this great quality it has? Now something that is an ocean of faults, it has one great quality. That one great quality we want to know. Kirtana deva Kṛṣṇasya. What is that great quality? By the glorification, by the congregational chanting, Kirtana eva Kṛṣṇasya, of Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa only. So by taking to the chanting of the holy name, Mukta Sangha, we can become, liberated. We can, come out of the clutches of the 3 modes of material nature. Mukta Sangha. Sangha is this material world. We can become liberated. We can rise above the 3 modes of material nature, Param Vrajet, and we can attain the supreme abode. We can go back home, back to Godhead. So of all the ages, this is the best age. Now let me give you another good news. Another good news is, within this Kali age, from the appearance of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the 10,000 golden years have started, as given in Padma Purana and other scriptures. Varaha Purana also refers to this. These 10,000 years is the most important years. And after that, even Srila Prabhupada said that the whole human race would become abominable. There won't be any hope. So this is the best time within this Kali age that we have taken birth, and we should use this now. So instead of, talking about... So again, in this chapter 2.7, where scheduled incarnation of Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa have been described. Yes, they are all, when discuss we discussed to glorify Lord Shri Krishna, to describe his merciful nature, paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma sansthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. So again he comes millennium after millennium to destroy the miscreants. But in this Kali age, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared, did he kill anyone? No. He did, invoke his Sudarshan Chakra once to kill who? Jagai and Madhai. And at that time, Nityananda Prabhu is the Adi Guru. Right? He said, my dear Lord, you have appeared in your most munificent incarnation. So you are not supposed to kill anyone. Rather, you have to deliver them. And these are the most fallen. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was, asked, and so he delivered Jagai and Madhai on the request of Nityananda Prabhu. So Jagai Madhai had to accept. So this is a lesson we take, that we have to take to a bona fide spiritual master. We have to aspire and take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master. We should serve them. We should inquire from them, right? And that is the process. Lord Krishna reveals in Bhagavad Gita 4.33, just a little earlier than this particular verse that we discussed today, is where he is saying, Tad vidhi paripatena pariprashnena sevaya ubdeshyanti tajjnanam jnanena tattvadarshina. In 4.34 verse of Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna is saying, Tad vidhi paripatena, tad vidhi. Now, as per the process, please try to understand. Paripatena pariprashnena sevaya. So one should, take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master who is appearing in disciplic succession, and should pariprashnena, humbly inquire from him, not challengingly, humbly inquire from him on spiritual matters. Don't inquire about which stock I want to engage in, or what kind of material books that I should be reading. Rather, should be inquiring on spiritual matters. Or should I be, looking for this position in this company or that position in that company? Don't ask those questions. Rather ask spiritually oriented questions, not related to the body, but to the soul, Jivatma that we are, right, for our spiritual progress. And sevaya, and perform his service. So how does one serve a spiritual master? There are two ways to serve a spiritual master. Vapu seva is, serving his physical form. And Vani seva is serving by following his instructions. Srila Prabhupada gives his own example that he did not get much association of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada. But at the same time, he took the instructions of his spiritual master to his heart. So he translated all these scriptures in English, and he propagated Krishna consciousness in the West and all around the world. So this way he spread, and now Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, they are available in more than 80 languages all around the world, where people can read them in their native language and they can understand the message. And the message finally culminates in Sankirtan Yajna, that we have to take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master, always refer to the three references. What are the three references? Sadhu, the devotees, the Vaishnavas, Guru, our spiritual master, and Shastras, the bona fide scriptures. We have to take shelter of these, use them as reference points to check, and understand that time and tide waits for no one. And in this life itself, we want to go back home. No more delays. Take to the chanting of the holy name, so that we engage in devotional service and purify ourselves and go back home, back to Godhead. And the process is very simple. All you have to do is raise your hand and chant Hare Kṛṣṇa, Hare Kṛṣṇa, Kṛṣṇa Kṛṣṇa, Hare Hare, Hare Rāma, Hare Rāma, Rāma Rāma, Hare Hare. So, yes, there are amazing incarnations being talked about. Sometimes people, they get bewildered because they say, and there are some, in this chapter, scheduled incarnations are being talked about, and then there are some personalities being talked about. Like, Prince Dhruva, his example comes as how he was chastised by his stepmother. And Uttanpal, his father, did not, say anything because he was attached to his younger wife, Suruchi. And Dhruva's mother also, Suniti, just gave him instruction that you should take shelter of the Supreme Father, and following that instruction, Dhruva Maharaj was able to attain perfection. So again, she was his spiritual master, giving the direction from that perspective. Mother is always the first spiritual master that we receive, and we learn about the scriptures a lot from Mother, the one who is spiritually aligned. And then comes King Vena's description, where he was, killed by the thunderbolt curse of the Brahmanas, and he was on his way to the hell. And at that time, from his body was produced another incarnation of Lord Shri Krishna, Prithu. Prithu Maharaj, he attains perfection by performing deity worship, Archana. So he is glorified that way. Again, there is description of Gajendra comes. So this particular chapter, the 7th chapter of 2nd Canto, acts as a trailer for all the coming attractions in the next 10 cantos, right? And we also understand that the first 2 cantos are the lotus feet of Lord Shri Krishna. So just by looking at the lotus feet, we can imagine, what is going to be the, form, right? What is going to be the beauty of the remaining parts. So we are preparing ourselves by hearing again and again about Canto 1 and Canto 2, so that we can prepare ourselves. And in the beginning stage, again and again it is said that we should read these 2 cantos so that we purify ourselves and take to the chanting of the holy name, following the 4 regulative principles, aspire for a spiritual master. Because as we do these activities, we will become more ready to read 3rd canto and onwards. And Srimad Bhagavatam is written for this Kali age, but it has to be read in a specific process. So that is our request, Hare Krishna, that you try to follow the process, because then you will be able to get the best benefit. Just like a doctor prescribes you medicine to be taken at a specific day of time, according to before or after meal, what should be the observation, what you should not eat along with that medicine that could react with it, or what you should eat with it. But at the same time, once again, even though those prescriptions are there, chanting of the holy name does not follow any restrictions. At any place, in any circumstances, at any time, we can chant the holy name, because it is all purifying. Hare Kṛṣṇa, Hare Kṛṣṇa, Kṛṣṇa Kṛṣṇa, Hare Hare, Hare Rāma, Rāma Rāma, Hare Hare. Hare Kṛṣṇa. So this is where we end this chapter, understanding the message in this particular chapter that yes, Lord's incarnations, they do not appear in a chronological order. They are unlimited incarnations, and some of them have been listed by Lord Brahma, like the incarnation as Kapil Dev, son of Devahuti and Kadama Muni, as Lord Dattatreya, son of Atri and Anusuya, as Lord Ramchandra. And then Lord Brahma goes elaborately describing Lord Krishna's appearance, who is Avatari, who is the source of all incarnations, and how he is interacting at Vrindavan, how he is interacting in Mathura, and so forth. And Lord Ramchandra's incarnations, Varahadev incarnations. He continues to go ahead and describe various incarnations even as Manus. He also, in the verse we read today, is calling, the Chatur Kumaras, Sanak, Sanatan, Sanandan, and Sanat Kumar as Shaktaveshavtas of Lord Shri Krishna, whose name also appear as one of the Mahajanas. So again, they are also referred to as one of the 12 Mahajanas. So they are considered as a single entity when it comes to Mahajanas. Right? Kumaro Kapilo Manu. And Kapil Dev, who is also an incarnation of Lord Shri Krishna, he is also in the Mahajanas list. And Manvantare. So again, that's we'll be talking about in 9th Canto about the various Manu's reigns. 8th, 9th Canto, they talk about it. But we have to understand, yes, we are discussing this in our current context. The time and tide waits for no one. We have to take to the chanting of the holy name. That is the essential aspect that we should take understand his various incarnations, which are just appearing to develop our attachment to his lotus feet, so that he can claim us and take us back with him, back to Godhead. Hare Krishna. If there is any question or comments, please share. Kantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Bhagavad ki jai, Anant Kori Vaishnav Vind ki jai, Nitaya Go Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, you can leave that on. I will read the question, they cannot hear me.
Okay.
Karuna Sindhu Prabhuji is saying, how can we develop taste to chant?
Hare Krishna. So Karuna Sindhu Prabhu is asking this question. Go ahead.
So we have one question, Prabhuji.
Yes.
Karuna Sindhu Prabhuji is asking, well, wonderful insights and teachings, Prabhuji. He says that first. And then he says, how can we develop taste or attraction to chant? Because in spite of knowing all this, my knowledge is mostly distracted. My mind, he's saying, my mind is mostly distracted. So can you share something how to overcome the distractions of mind and be more focused and develop more taste and attraction for devotional service?
Now, Hare Krishna Karuna Sindhu Prabhu. So again, one simple answer I would give you is you should attend Anand Rupa Devi's glorification of holy names lectures. If you go back and read, you will come to know of the 6 factors she has discussed at length. And Acharyas, they revealed to us, right? Srila Rupa Goswami, he is revealing, Atah Shri Krishna Namadi na bhave graham indriya sevon mukhehi jivado swayam eva spuratyada. So our material senses, they are too gross and they cannot understand the glories of Lord Krishna's Namadi, name, form, activities, pastimes, names and other things, which are his activities, his paraphernalia, his pastimes. So we cannot, our senses cannot understand that. Sevon mukhe jivado. But when we engage our jiva, our tongue, in seva, in serving Lord Shri Krishna, and how can we engage? By eating prasadam. So we should make nice, wonderful food stuff and offer it in sattvic mode, right, in mode of goodness. And we should offer it to the deities. We should offer it to the picture of Krishna. And when we offer it and we meditate that Lord is eating it, and then later on with the family we sit down and we eat it together, it purifies us. And another thing is by taking to the chanting, glorification of the holy name, right? Kirtanam means reading Srimad Bhagavatam, also hearing about it, about the name, form, activities, glories of Lord Shri Krishna, and the chanting of the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So by Swayam eva spuratya, the Lord Krishna himself manifests to us. And now you are saying that to develop attraction for chanting, the answer is, the real aspect is, from this explanation you should derive is, that we have to take to the chanting, right? In the beginning it may be offensive, but by constantly chanting, we will develop the taste and it will become offenseless. We should also look at what are the 10 offenses as given in Padma Purana. The 11th one is inattentive chanting. And this basically come from laziness, inattentiveness and ignorance, right? So we should be very careful not to go in that direction, but be very attentive. And as we chant the holy name, chanting, the japa, it causes us to develop attraction over a period of time. Another example given is the sweet candy tastes very bitter to a person who is inflicted with jaundice. And we are all inflicted with this material disease which is like jaundice. So the chanting of the holy name and hearing the holy name does not sound very attractive in the beginning. But we should continue to chant because that is the cure for the jaundice, the sweet candy. We have to continue to suck on this sweet candy. So similarly in this material, we have to continue to chant. Even though in the beginning we may not have any attraction, we should forcefully, somehow or other, we should chant, understanding that's the only shelter, and slowly, slowly, we will develop our attraction, our absorption, our attention, our affection towards the holy name, and we will come to Namabhas and further unto Shuddhanam, where the Bhav manifestation happens. Hare Krishna, hopefully this answers your question. Hare Krishna, please join us for Narasimha Devati.
Love.
सिंहदेव भगवान की जय, प्रहलाद महाराज की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। हरे कृष्णा।
Hare Krishna, dear viewers. Thank you very much for joining us for Srimad Bhagavatam class today. We were trying a new arrangement today, because of which my voice was not that audible. Just a different microphone system. So, want to thank all the viewers, especially the new people who joined us today. Lakshmi Sharma ji, Hare Krishna. Haribol Nirudal ji, Nidhi Gupta, Chitra Gidwani ji, Harish, Rajesh Adak ji, Haribol Poonam Parmar ji, Haribol Shri Sambad ji, Hare Krishna, Haribol. Today, Jiva Tattva Prabhu ji gave us the class on the Incarnations, which is the subject of chapter 7 in Canto 2. And also, Prabhuji told us several beautiful stories, little stories. We all love stories because, somehow we need to understand this message in these Kali Age times. Chanting the holy names is the sweetest and the most sincerest thing we can offer to the Lord, and we can connect with Bhagwan. So, Jyoti Nagpal ji, Haribol, Kanta ji, Hare Krishna. We have few viewers still joining, but right now class end ho rahi hai. So, if you have any questions, आप कृपया comment में type कर सकते हैं. Later on, Prabhuji can check and answer your questions, or you can bring your questions to the class tomorrow. Soma Thapa ji, Hare Krishna, Hari Bol, Shishupal Vaishnav ji, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna Pooja ji, Hare Krishna, dear viewers. So, Prabhuji, please go ahead.
ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, श्रील भगवत्पाद की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, निताय गो प्रेमानंदे।
हरि हरि बोल।
हरे कृष्णा।